Welcome to the Raven Knoll Show. I'm your host, Raven C. Knoll, known as the Soul Physician. I'm a wife, mother, counselor, mindset plus life coach, and speaker, and this is episode number 5. Hey, welcome back to my show. I am so excited to be before you today, as I am always. If you are a repeat listener, hello. And if you are tuning in for the first time, hello. Whether you've heard multiple episodes or you're just somehow you've stopped by this podcast today, I'm just glad that you are here. So I am, like I said, excited to chat with you today and continue the conversation about 3 types of high achieving women. Today, we're moving onto our second type, and I'm excited about this one. I think that I'm excited because I do believe that this is a relatable profile that I'm going to be talking about today. And so kind of to reverse and to go backwards a little bit. In the last episode, we talked about the hurting high achiever. If you haven't heard that episode, make sure to check it out because it was very insightful and probably the most common high achieving woman that I've worked with. And I'll also make sure to link it in the show notes. But trust me, it was juicy. And I received a good amount of feedback from so many women that could relate. You know, it was one of those like cutty podcasts, but at the same time, it encouraged and it motivated and it really helped for you to look internally and say, what can I change about the situation that I've, gotten myself into as far as becoming a hurting high achiever, and what do I need to shift in my life so that I can become more healthy? And so I do believe the episode was, very beneficial for so many. But today, we're going to be going on to our next type of high achieving, successful woman. And she is one who feels the need to show up even when she's tired or depleted. She has a very hard time saying no and realistically measuring her work capacity, meaning she usually has too much on her plate. And more than likely, she has a very unhealthy relationship with her work, her job, or her career. Okay. Now, I do understand, let me just add this in here, that you sometimes have to work your butt off to get to where you need to be or you desire to be in life. I get that, not knocking that whatsoever. I also understand that entrepreneurship requires a lot of work. And when you're first starting off, you're working like long hours. Like, seriously, I get it. I'm an entrepreneur, so I get that too. And I understand that climbing the corporate ladder requires you to stay alert and be on your A game. I get that too, because I've worked in corporate America. But when you start to experience high levels of anxiety, high levels of exhaustion, when you're struggling to show up or just be a part or just get by every day or get the day going truly, when you are experiencing consistent thoughts that are ones filled with self-doubt and failure, but it's partnered with this striving mindset of I have to work anyhow and I got to get it done anyway. Or when you're experiencing what I like to call chronic negativity, everything becomes really consumed with negativity. You're very irritable. You don't have a very optimistic outlook on anything anymore. That's a telltale sign that you've gone way too far and you've crossed this threshold of having a very unhealthy relationship with your work. And so in today's episode, we're going to talk about the burnt-out workaholic. Oh, yes, we are going to go there today. Now, burnout is very common. It's a very common occurrence for women who are high performing and high achieving. And the reason is that most of the time they struggle with a proper work-life balance. They fail at setting healthy boundaries around work hours or around work time. You've heard people say, I'm not a 9-to-5 gal. I'm not boxed into that. Well, sometimes that's not too healthy. And also, a lot of these women just do not have good self-care plans in place. And that's very common as well. Am I talking to you? Is that something you can also relate to? So if I am, I want you to take time right now to have what I like to call come to Jesus moment. I want you to admit that you are a burnt out workaholic. You've been a burnt out workaholic, or you're on the verge of becoming a burnt out workaholic. Come on, let's just bring it on in. Let's just be honest. Let's be transparent. Let's be real about it. Because if you cannot admit to it, then it doesn't become a real thing, right? And that's why sometimes people avoid being honest and open about what they're actually struggling with or common areas that are unhealthy in their life. They try to avoid admitting, right, that it's something that they're struggling with, or it's something that they know they need to change. But here's the thing. When you don't want to admit to certain things, it only grows, okay? And when you are dealing with burnout can severely affect your mental health, okay? And so you may be wondering, why am I struggling with certain things? But if you don't want to admit to the fact that you may be experiencing burnout, that could be one of the reasons, you're having some struggles with your mental health. But not only that, it severely affects your physical health as well. So the mind and body are connected. When one is affected, the other one can be too. So if you are experiencing some burnout in your life, it's affecting your mental health. The longer you don't deal with it, now it's going to show up in your physical health, because that expression has to be expressed somewhere. Your body wants to tell you that something is going on internally that you may need to focus on, you may need to deal with, you may need to get some help on. And so when you are avoiding the trueness of what's happening in your life, it's only going to lead to more issues, more struggles for you in the long term. That's just a nugget for you to kind of chew on. Now, there are a series of ways as to how burnout can happen. There's a series of ways as to how burnout can show up in your life. I'm not even going to go into all the different symptoms, but what I want to talk about is the common ways I've seen burnout show up, or how it shows up in a person's life. Okay. And so number one, a lack of boundaries, like I stated before, which leads to a very unhealthy work-life balance. So when you're giving more time to your work than you do your personal life, that becomes very unhealthy. You have to understand that you are the foundation. If you are unhealthy, everything connected to you is unhealthy. If you are unhealthy, your work is going to be unhealthy. If you are unhealthy, your business is going to be unhealthy. If you are unhealthy, your relationships are going to be unhealthy. Everything connected to you is going to be unhealthy. So you have to be intentional about taking care of you so that you can take care of everything connected to you. If you want your career to thrive, if you want your business to thrive, if you want your relationships to thrive, if you want your mental health to thrive, if you want to just thrive in general, then you have to be more intentional about taking care of you. You cannot be the last person that gets a checkup. You know what I mean? You can't check up on your emails, checking up on your coworkers, checking up on your team, checking up on all these different things, but you're not checking up on yourself. So you have to make sure that you understand that you have to be intentional again about taking care of you. Number two, another common way that I've seen burnout happen is when a woman has an unhealthy performance-driven mindset that is fueled by perfectionism. Okay. When you have an unhealthy performance-driven mindset that is fueled by perfectionism, you'll say things like, I have to do the work. And if I don't do the work, I'm going to be seen as a failure. You may say it, you may think it, you may feel it, but it's something around that, right? Because ultimately, perfectionists want to be seen a certain way. They want people to perceive them a certain way. And so if you are a high achieving woman, a high performing woman, maybe you want to be seen as successful. Maybe you want to be seen as high performing. Maybe you want to be seen as a get it done type of person. And because of this, and because you may be dealing with perfectionism, you're going to do what is necessary to ensure that people see you that way, because you want people to perceive you the way that you want them to perceive you, based on a perfectionist mindset, a perfectionist outlook on life, a perspective, just a dysfunction that you may be dealing with. And so you'll do whatever it takes to ensure people see you this way. But that's so unhealthy, because ultimately it's working against you, and it will end in your detriment, because you'll be burnt out while everybody else is walking around free and joyful, but you've been trying to work so hard to prove who you are, or work so hard to prove, you're working so hard so people can see you a certain way, that you are ultimately breaking down behind the scenes while everybody else is just, going about life, joyful, joyful, joyful. But you're trying so hard for people to see you a certain way, and it's not working out for you. It's actually working against you. And then number three is an inability to speak up or set clear expectations of your workload. And sometimes this not speaking up thing can come from a place of fearing rejection, which in nature is actually self-sabotaging. Here's what most people don't realize. When you don't speak up for yourself, you're actually rejecting yourself before anyone else can. When you don't speak up and say, hey, that's too much on my plate. Hey, I don't think I can do that. Hey, that's too much for me. Hey, I'm tired. Hey, I can't work those hours. When you don't speak up for yourself, you're rejecting yourself before anyone else can. And so you actually have this fear of people rejecting you, but ultimately you've already rejected yourself. So what you're afraid of is already happening by your own hands. And I know that one may be a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, but it's true. It's so, so true. Now, I do understand, with the whole workload, work-life balance, it can be hard depending on the profession that you work in. So if you don't set your own schedule or you have little to no control over the influence of your workload, it may be difficult, but that's when I tell my clients how important it is to advocate for yourself. You have to be able to say and speak up to leadership, to your bosses, to your team, to whoever, to advocate for your own health, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And if you are advocating for yourself or you've tried to advocate for yourself, but nothing is changing, that's when I would have to strongly encourage you to make a pivot in your career direction. You want to be in a career, a job, a workplace, a field in life that doesn't cause you to suffer. No one should have to suffer. And I mean emphasis on suffer mentally, emotionally, or physically for the sake of a job or career. Absolutely not. We're not going to do it. There's too much opportunity out there, and there's too many other things that you could be doing with your time. And you just don't deserve that. You are more valuable and more worthy than to have to show up in capacities that are depleting you. Now, I want you to ask yourself this question, okay? This is going to help you determine why you're a burnt-out workaholic. Question 1, what is motivating me to work this hard? Question 2, what is the motivating factor behind this workaholic mindset that's leaving me depleted? Now, if you need to take some time out, put the podcast on pause, turn it off for a minute, think on this, ponder on this. I encourage you to do that because you need to find the answers to these questions because this is going to help you determine how you got in the situation that you are in. Now that I've asked you, to ask yourself those questions, I want to pose a few more questions to you myself, okay? So who told you this is the proper way to show up in your life or your career? Where did you get the example that burnout was okay? Where did you get the example that this is a normal way of life? Like those are real questions that you have to ask yourself to help you really discover, like, what am I doing? How did I get here? And why am I so unhealthy in the work that I do? You really have to stop and think and really ponder on what is happening internally within me. What are my external motivating factors? What did I learn this behavior? These are real questions because asking yourself these questions can help you determine the starting point of your habits, your decisions, and the mindset that led you to burnout. It can also help you determine how to deal with burnout if you're currently experiencing burnout. And then lastly, it's going to help you determine how to create healthy boundaries around your work, around your life so that you can avoid burnout again. Or if you haven't experienced it, avoid it altogether. Okay. It's important that you understand where this started. It's important that you understand, was this learned behavior? It's important that you understand, how did this mindset, motivate me to get here? How did this outlook on life become okay for me? How did I get to this point in my life? So I want to leave you with this, which is the antidote to burnout. Okay. This is the medicine you need to take to help you with this whole burnout, workaholic type of life. Okay. You ready for this? It's real easy. Yet a lot of people still don't do it. It's rest. It's rest. Rest will help you reduce anxiety and stress. Rest will help you reset and reevaluate your life. Rest will give you time to reflect and set boundaries. Rest will improve your mood. Okay. If you've been irritable lately, if you feel like, I've just been very negative about life, rest will help. And rest is essential. It's essential when creating a self-care plan. Self-care in itself is something that is completely underutilized in high performing and high achieving women. And it's so important that you get more rest, but that you also put more of an investment of your time in self-care. So all high achieving, high performing women need a regular self-care plan. And if you don't already have one, it's important that you do get one ASAP. So now, again, I want you to understand that these profiles that I've created based on what we've talked about are profiles from the clients that I've worked with. Okay. There are many other successful, high achieving women out there who are not struggling in this way. I don't want to make it seem like all women are in these categories. But if you are a burnt out workaholic, I hope that this episode shed light on some unhealthy tendencies you may have and encourage you to reevaluate your work-life balance. Listen, work hard, go get it, do you, but work smart by putting wellness first. All right. That's my 2 cents on today to help the burnout workaholic. All right, lovely people. It's been great. I will talk to you in the next episode. Talk soon. This has been the Raven Knoll Show. Thanks for listening. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to this podcast so you're the first to know when new episodes are released. And don't forget to leave a review. If you can't wait until the next show, follow along on Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter at RavenCKnoll for more tips and to keep the conversation going. Go ahead and DM me on Instagram or take a screenshot of this podcast and share it to your IG stories. I want to know about your takeaways from the show. Don't forget to tag me and use the hashtag RCNPodSquad. Lastly, visit my website at ravencknoll.com and join my email list to get exclusive bonuses only for my email subscribers. Thanks again for rocking and rolling with me. I'll talk to you soon.